2012 agenda. As the 2012 session approaches us here coming up in February, there's still much economic uncertainty in our state. Oregon's economic index has fallen for 4 consecutive months. There's new data that suggests Oregon is falling behind the nation in economic growth. There's little personal income growing, and too many of our citizens are living in poverty and hunger. 1 in 5 Oregonians continues to be on food stamp assistance, and we are draining our volunteer resources in our food banks, and it's not a proud thing for Oregon. Our unemployment rate has dropped a little bit only because of people are leaving the workforce. We still have a high underemployed workforce in the state of Oregon. And our economic recovery remains in doubt. Since we left here the 2011 session, the economists that forecasted our recovery have been wrong. We've had 2 forecasts that continue to decline in our state, and we have a short-term budget problem that we will fix during the 2012 session, but we have a bigger problem in that we do have a lack of jobs in the state of Oregon, and that is a short-term as well as a long-term problem facing our state. We will struggle to fund state government so as long as this many Oregonians remain unemployed. Until we get them back to work and generate the revenues that we need, we will struggle to balance our budget. That's why House Republicans are offering some new, bold solutions to solving this problem in the state of Oregon. In 2012, we'll propose a 2-part plan to help move Oregon forward. The first part of that plan is 50,000 jobs in 5 years. Has 7 solutions to put Oregonians back to work and create billions in personal income and 50,000 jobs for the citizens of Oregon. Second part of that agenda is Reform Oregon. You have copies of that in front of you. 9 solutions to reduce government bureaucracy, to remove roadblocks, and help the private sector employ people, and also improve education and health care in our state. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the 50,000 jobs in 5 years part of our agenda. Representative Comert, come on, join us. The highlights of the 5-year 50,000 job plan include allowing working families to save and spend more of their earnings, leveraging Oregon's abundant water resources that we have lots of in this state, expanding Oregon's enterprise and e-commerce zones to help Oregon businesses expand and hire Oregon citizens, supporting the Oregon's building and trade and construction people in this state, putting Oregons back to work in our state forests, again, natural resources that we have an abundant amount of, and promoting capital investment in Oregon, encouraging small businesses to hire Oregon's long-term unemployed citizens. The 50,000 jobs agenda is a product of months of work by our policy committee, many of who are standing up here with me today, that started right after we left this session and worked real hard up until this point in time, plus other people who are not even in our caucus that help us with these policies. These measures have been analyzed extensively by nonpartisan agencies, including Legislative Revenue. We've worked closely with Oregon job creators in business and in the trades to help develop these measures. And over 5 years, and I think this is the real critical thing that we need to keep in mind, over 5 years, these solutions would generate an estimated 50,000 jobs and $7.89 billion in personal income growth for the citizens of Oregon. I want to say that again, $7.89 billion in personal income growth in the pockets of Oregon citizens, our customers. Some people inside this building may be concerned about the revenue impacts to government. But I think those of us standing up here, House Republicans, are more concerned about putting Oregons back to work first. Unlike government stimulus, the cost is not an appropriation. Unlike government stimulus, this plan offers real jobs with real personal income growth. If the legislature and the governor choose to adopt this plan, state government will receive more revenues in the future. I repeat that. State government will receive more revenues in the future when we get Oregon citizens back to work with $7.89 billion in their pockets. In fact, this entire plan can be paid for if we just hold the spending level in the state of Oregon to the CPI index over the next 5 years. I want to remind everybody the CPI index is what we tie minimum wage to in this state and several other things, rent adjustments and those types of things in the private sector. If we could hold government spending to that index, we could pay for this plan and still have government revenues increase. This plan helps create jobs, and it significantly expands personal income growth for our citizens. We hope to pass many of these bills as we can, and we believe that this is a good deal for Oregonians and the taxpayers. And I want to stress this is not a partisan plan. We're willing to work constructively with the Democrats and the governor on these measures and any measures that will promote private sector hiring. Any measures that will promote private sector hiring, and there's others out there. But the time to act is now. And there is a cost to this plan, but the cost with sticking to the status quo is much higher. Oregonians need jobs, and the time to act is now. And we'll have Representative Parrish now talk about the reform part of the agenda, and then we'll have a time for questions and answers. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I think when we left here last June, there was a lot in the newspaper and media that said, it was a great session, people worked well together. There was also a lot of feedback that we didn't get enough done. And so we went out, spent the last almost 7 months listening and talking to people and communicating with our constituents, communicating with the job creators in our state. I've got a lot of miles on my car to verify. We've been out there talking to folks. And what you got in front of you is 7 months of very long, diligent work, a lot of meetings, and a lot of listening. I think we feel that we don't have to have all the ideas. The people in Oregon have those solutions. And so the work product that you're looking at reflects those discussions across building trades and healthcare and with our constituents and small business owners. And so these are the ideas that we're bringing forward to you. On the reform side, you've got a handful of policy ideas and proposals that our members are going to introduce in February. And, the Business 101, when I was in business school, the 2 ways to create wealth: you got to save money and you got to make money. And I think that these proposals do that for our state. They do it for our citizens. So on the reform side, we can improve education and save money for education. Representative Conger has a bill to save money for schools and direct those dollars back into our classrooms. We'll certainly see the outcomes down the road of kids who have lower class sizes and hopefully improve graduation rates. We want to see kids who have productive and skilled lives ahead of them, and we know we need to put more dollars into schools. Representative Conger's bill, we think, has a way to do that. Representative Johnson also has a bill to look at teacher evaluation and make sure that we're improving the quality of teachers so that we can improve outcomes for kids. We're also looking at the business environment. We've heard from small businesses across the state that Measure 67 was punitive, and so we've got some ideas to replace Measure 67 with reasonable and predictable corporate tax rates. We know from talking to people that land use is an issue, and a one-size-fits-all land use policy in the state does not serve people in rural and southern parts of Oregon. And so we want to make sure that as we look at land use and look at opportunities to develop our rural communities, that they have fair consideration for job creation opportunities as well. We've heard from citizens that health care is outrageous and expensive and not attainable, and we certainly have hundreds of thousands of Oregonians that do not have health care. So we want to look at the options that would help put dollars back in people's pockets. We're proposing that we allow individuals and families to deduct the cost of their health insurance premiums, and we want to make sure that the insurance is affordable, so we're going to work on that as well. Lastly, we think that we should hold government accountable and save taxpayer money. Oregonian, frankly, has done very good work uncovering where we are spending money and where we can save money. Those are things like travel and advertising and professional development and things that, quite frankly, could feasibly save upwards of $100 million a year in spending if we simply tighten our belts and ask ourselves, what is the core function of government that we should be doing? And we don't think that billboard advertising and keychains and decks of cards are probably the appropriate use of taxpayer dollars, and it's particularly at a time when we are having to make cuts to programs that we all care about. So the last is that we want to make sure that we bring transparency to the unfunded liabilities. We have a very clear, open discussion about what our obligations are and what kind of money that's going to take. And so, again, this package of bills is certainly the work of our members, but we're still tied, and we are going to need help to get these measures across the finish line, and that means we are absolutely willing to work with, quite frankly, the House Democrats and the folks in the Senate side. It's got to go through both chambers. We're open to ideas and feedback, and we are hopeful that the next time we leave session at the end of this short session, that we can say once again we work together to solve Oregon's problems, but we can also say this time that we got it done. We actually moved the dial forward for Oregon's families, for people who have been out of work. Almost 200,000 people in the years since the recession out of work. This is a plan to start to incrementally move the dial forward to put those people back to work, to save dollars in our state budget and redirect them to seniors and children and veterans and places where we need to be spending our dollars. So thank you.